Again, for the benefit of new listeners, when we talk about things like asset management and vulnerability, you mentioned a little bit, but what are we concretely talking about specifically? And related to that, when CISA requires that these agencies, quote, identify assets and vulnerabilities on their network and provide data to CISA on defined intervals, what does that entail? Is this type of asset management something that most civilian agencies are doing anyway, and reporting it to CISA is simply an additional step? Or is this asking agencies who haven't done much asset management in their past to start thinking about it for the first time? Or is it a wide spectrum?
It's a wide spectrum, because there are some that are doing something, and there are some that are not doing anything. And
right.
Eventually, let's define what is an asset. And in my perspective, and what we do in Sepio is taking that in the broader definition. So every device that has any sort of connectivity, wired or wireless, to your infrastructure, I intentionally not saying network, but infrastructure or data, is an asset in terms of risk at minimum. Meaning that your mouse, your keyboard, your disk on key or thumb drive, your computer, your network infrastructure, your OT, IoT, and IT equipment are assets. Now, the challenge is first and it's not unique to the government again, but to agree that this is the span of assets. Because, if you go to IoT security company, they will say IoT assets. OT security company, OT assets. You'll go to a company that sells kind of a network access control system, NAC, they will say IT. And we just bought an OT or IoT and all of that. But generally speaking, asset is an asset regardless what it is doing, as long as it has any sort of connectivity into your infrastructure. That's my belief. And I would say that the narrow definitions of IoT and OT and IT are dangerous, because many devices will fall between the cracks.
Sure.
So that's element number one. Now, when you have a definition of asset, we all agree that when a person gets into an office, he brings a risk. The risk, he may be an insider. He may carry something knowingly or unknowingly. And many sorts of that. We can spend hours on that. But a device, exactly like a software asset, is the same faults. So device can carry something knowingly or unknowingly. Someone bring that device knowingly or unknowingly. And the risk of that device has multiple contributors. For example, the United States decided, I'm not against that, but decided, of course, that there are specific vendors that should be blacklisted, and we are not welcome these manufacturers in our infrastructure. I'm not getting into the politics, but that was a decision. So this is a risk indicator, right? So if I see these, I'm not in compliance with regulation. Some agencies and some organizations say that I don't allow any detachable media,
right,
for so and so reasons. So devices from sort of detachable media creates a unique risk to these sort of organizations, while other organizations I don't care, because that's the nature of me doing
because it's
business.
necessary. Yeah, right.
X-ray machine, for example. Now, some may say I don't want specific types of devices in specific areas within my infrastructure. Another risk indicator. And there's the reputation of the device. There is the reputation of the vendor. On top of the blacklisted, bad practice or good practice in designing and implementation based on media, based on many other incidents involved with these specific devices and vendors. And we can, again, spend hours on that. But eventually, all of that create a risk score for each one of the devices. So that risk score is a key element in trying to figure out what's your risk posture of the organization. Unfortunately, today, too many parts in the government, in the industry, are not aligned with that. In contrast, for example, with what they do now with software risk, which is really great in some organizations, but they are behind in implementation of that into hardware. And when they will, I think we will gain way better security for all of us, especially in the government aspect on our life.
How about some free cybersecurity training resources for you and your team? Just go to infosecinstitute.com/free to get ebooks, training guides, and more than 100 cybersecurity training courses, all free for CyberWork listeners. Go to infosecinstitute.com/free and start learning crucial new skills today.